Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for another comic book spoiler review. And today we'll be covering a DC comic, this 8-issue arc of The Flash. Uh, uh, written by Joshua Williamson. Lightning Strikes Twice. Now the Rebirth era, that's like pretty sure that came out like 2006. When did a DC Rebirth start? Yeah, it was 2016. It was like 2006 or 2016. Yeah, it was 2016 when the Rebirth era started. This is like after the whole debacle that is, New 52, where they was trying to like, if you ever read like Marvel's Ultimate comic book run, like, Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Iron Man, that kind of thing, is where it's like, the characters that we know, but set in a time where it's like more modern times, at least modern-ish, during that period. And even with like Marvel, it only had like a few successes, but well, I guess New 52, my personal opinion, only had like a few successes that I actually dug. But by and large, New 52 was probably like the worst era in comics that I ever witnessed. Now, I read some bad events and bad comics, but it's like New 52 kind of took the cake for me. Trying to make Superman edgy because, like, I don't know, people like just refuse to believe that, Superman's ideals doesn't fit the modern times. It's like you make it fit in the modern times. Not that Superman has to be like, so goddamn perfect, but it's like, you don't trying to make him edgy or like, cynical or like, you're trying to apply his Batman's worldview onto Superman, and it does not work. It and this is around the time when you're trying to give him like remove his underwear kind of thing. It just, the New 52 era just did not work by and large. Now, however, eventually there will be some New 52 comic book runs that I will put onto the channel, but it'll be the ones that I actually dug. That not only like, art was well done, but like the the writing was pretty good. By and large, they're Batman stuff, but there's like at least the Justice League event. Forever Evil, Batman Court of Owls, and Batman Eternal is probably like the few that I can remember off the top of my head that came from the New 52 that I actually liked. And I think some stuff from Dark Side War. I mean, like, here and there, but like, by and large, those are the only three that I actually really enjoyed. But then, by the masses who complained about like, the crap, that was doled out during the New 52 era, then they had to do this convergence things, which was terrible in its own right. But now they kind of, established the Rebirth era, just to like bring things back to the way people, liked. But there's, well, it's hard to say. Like, they kept certain aspects of, I guess, what you should keep was like, modernize, like, like cell phones and like, certain things that kind of like, like, as hard as put as like, there's certain things it's like, modernize the stuff, but don't change the aspects or the core stuff that we liked about these characters. So Rebirth era comes about as a nice jumping on point in case like people who like, because these cons been around since like the 40s and 50s. So it's like there's certain arcs and years of comics, and it's like it's hard to tell people like, well, I want to say it's hard, but is the hard part is getting people to like, okay, where to jump on, what's the jumping on point for so and so, and it's hard for you to tell people like, hey, look at issues of the Flash number 200 and blah blah blah. Like, just make it easy. If you want somebody to like a kid and want a jumping on point, especially when it comes to DC, check out like Rebirth era. That personally I think is like a nice succinct era where you can like, okay, tell your kids this is a jumping on point. Then you can like, after like a certain moment of like reading material, then you can say like, okay, if you like Green Lantern Rebirth, you should definitely check out Blackest Night, kind of thing. Or if you like the Flash, you'll definitely like Flashpoint. Personally, I don't like Flashpoint. I might be in the minority on that one. But you catch my drift. So I dug the Rebirth era. I think it's like like this, like in those firing on all cylinders with this writing and art. And this particular arc of the Flash introduced one of my favorite new villains in comic book history. It's like I already went over like Thor, God of Thunder, during the issues 1 through 11 during the Gore the God Butcher arc, which you can check out on the channel youtube.com/talkativecarl. It's getting like tons of views, so I appreciate all you guys who's been checking that out. They already released a full trailer for Thor Love and Thunder, and you get like a full Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher. And of course we had Godspeed in the Flash TV show. I just did not care for what they did with him for the most part, but that's CW for you. They kind of like go their own way with certain things and melodrama and blase. I just, I kind of fell off with, the CW, like, after the last Crisis. That's when I was kind of like slowly kind of like falling off little by little. I can't do with it anymore. But anyway, the Flash Rebirth. Like I said, written by Joshua Williamson, or by D. Giandomenico. Domenico. Sorry, I can't really pronounce the last name. Who I think I seen like at least a couple of his art designs in like a decent amount of comics. Personally, I think his art kind of fits, or at least tailor made for, not only the art but the penciling is tailor made for like the Flash, because as you can see in certain panels that I'll show you, it's like the certain diagonal jaggy kind of lines kind of fits as far as like showing off like speed, and it seems you get a sense of like movement. I think kind of fits for the Flash. Like I said, it's kind of like bringing like you see other Rebirth stuff. The first issue is kind of like truncating the origin story of these characters, so you kind of get up to speed, not dragging out, but like here's like a panel or two about their how they got their powers. Boom, like here we go. So of course but there's a little rework, just like a minor tweak where you introduce this new character called August Hart, who is a police officer of the Central City Police Department, and he worked alongside the Barry Allen, who is a CSI. Now, of course, prior to this, August Hart didn't exist. He's like a brand new character for the DC universe moving forward. And of course, through this arc, you understand the relationship between Barry and August. And August, they kind of form a kinship because August can relate to Barry's predicament that his, as you know about Barry Allen's mom was killed when he was a little kid. Later it's the Reverse Flash who did it, but his father was framed for it, and to everybody else's knowledge, the killer was never found. August, who had a brother who died by this crook, who the only difference is they know who. Well, he thinks he knows who did it. Named this Billy Park, and there was not enough evidence to hold Billy, so he was released for lack of evidence. And it's kind of like stuck in August's craw, so it's kind of like his gut feeling. He always messes his gut feeling, like I know he did it, and it's like I had to tell my family that this jerk is gonna be this criminal's walking. The guy who took our family member away, he was walking. So you get a sense of August's feelings. But then you get the moment. This is around the time when he got his powers, his chemicals sprayed on him, lightning struck, that kind of thing. But then, like I said, this is like New Rebirth era. They didn't totally forget what transpired in New 52, but they slowly but surely kind of reintroduced certain characters that they kind of want to leave out in New 52 because it was too many characters, so they kind of truncated all the main ones people should focus on. And it's like, that was a misstep. There's plenty of characters in the DC universe that people want stories about, but it's like, you subtracting them isn't fixing it. Like, for example, Wally West. Now, during the New 52 era, we had a black Wally West, and the Wally West for late 80s up until mid 2000s, the Flash that we probably would have gotten used to would have been Wally West. He was the Caucasian Wally West with red hair. And if you ever watched the Justice League TV series and Justice League Unlimited, that was Wally West, not Barry Allen. Barry Allen died during the first DC Crisis event. And he was running real fast, and he, at the time we thought he just disintegrated, but he was merged in the Speed Force. But but then we later found out it was Wally was the first one to access the Speed Force. But now during the I don't know, it was was it 52 or Rebirth? One of the two brought back Barry Allen, especially since the whole time when the Flash TV series first started. It was around that time when Barry Allen was being brought back. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was a little bit hesitant about that because for the longest time we were so used to, because I never grew up with Barry Allen. I mean, now I'm used to him, after so many years. It's been more than a decade now. We was, a decade and some change that we gotten used to Barry Allen. But he died in the 80s during the Crisis event. Now it's like since the TV show, we bring in Barry Allen back into the fray, into the zeitgeist, and so Rebirth era, mentions how like hey, or at least Barry Allen's mentioned like like Wally was doing like the whole convergence thing, like like Wally, you know, merged with the Speed Force, and for a while we had like this, I never understood that line of thinking. It's like they're making a new Barry Allen during I think it was New 52 where they made not new Barry Allen, new Wally West is black kid who happens to be Wally West. Now we understand like we call him Wallace West to differentiate between the two Wallies. You got like the ginger hair Wally West, and then you got Wallace West, the black kid. And we couldn't like, I'm glad they didn't choose to just ignore or erase Wallace West, because the level of shit that they will catch if they decide to like we got the gingerhead one back, so what we're gonna do with this black kid? Oh well, let's nix him. Like no, don't do that because you catch all kinds of hell. So now we have two different Wallies, which kind of works out well. Now currently, Wally had, after some trials and tribulations, they really, I don't know what was going on with the writers' minds for such a long time, to where they given like giving a lot of shit to Wally, gingerhead Wally, trying to bring him back, going through trying to figure out his place in the world, and it didn't seem like they know what to do with them. Now it's like he's found his footing in like in the past like year or so. But anyway, now like Barry Allen's like it's in a melancholy kind of mood, because now it's just like it's all him. He's like handling Keystone and Central City by himself, where for such a long time he's so used to having like a partner. He had Wally West, gingerhead Wally West, by his side. Gingerhead Wally West at this point in time is still trapped in the Speed Force, like in and out of Speed Force. But later on he'll come back, in subsequent arcs in this Rebirth era. But for at this point in time, like he's by himself. We also got Wallace West, but his powers are just like slowly, coming into spurts, but he's not telling nobody. You'll find out later in the next couple of issues. But for right now, like Barry's just like going all over the place, rescuing people, stopping criminals, and it's like he's concerned. He doesn't feel like he can be in two places at once, because he got work, and he's, I guess, he gotten too used to having a partner, so he can always have like somebody on the other end of things handling stuff, because despite his speed, he cannot be in two places at once. Then it's really come to a head here, where now despite like dealing with work, or he's dealing with this investigation where Star Labs is getting broken into, some tech was stolen, and by these thieves called the Black Hole, and a security guard was killed, and Barry comes in to investigate. Of course you got like Iris West, who's Wallace West's aunt, and she of course knows there's something more to it than just a simple I would say Barry as well. It was more than a simple break-in, because these people knew what they're doing, because there are certain vials that wasn't touched that would have been dangerous if it was like moved or like broken or whatever. So they was pretty like cautious about the surrounding area, and they knew exactly what to go after. So leads to believe they're scientists. But then, while two emergencies going on later that day, uh, there is a fire in the building in one part of town while August is handling black hole goons who on another side of town. It was like a shootout at this point. Now, Barry decided, okay, I got to go to the fire first because, like, it's plenty of people, like, because the cops can handle these other guys with guns. I'm needed, which allows superheroes to probably have to take priority on certain things if there's multiple stuff going on. So the fire with people, potentially about to burn to death, that takes, precedent. So he goes there, saves everybody, but just when he's about to, intervene into the shootout, because there's like a storm raging at the time, and right as August was about to get shot, trying to save some civilians, the bullet is firing, and like Barry was just about to miss saving August until lightning struck, giving August super speed powers, and within those milliseconds, August raced around, take down the goon who shot the gun, and like there's a new speedster. And this leads to Barry questioning, did the Speed Force answer my prayers, kind of thing. It's pretty much like the Speed Force, guys, like, not like a god, but I guess like, there's like a Grim Reaper for Speedster. So it's like, I guess the Speed Force is in some facsimile their god, I guess. So Barry now is like, after a few days, been training August about learning how to use the speed, learning how to, like, think as quickly as, because Barry had to learn this the hard way, because he had no teacher. So he had to learn his things on the go. It's not too dissimilar to like Spider-Man, who when he's training like Miles Morales, it's like, I have to, teach you certain things because, all the, stuff, the do's and don'ts that I had to figure out the hard way, growing up. So that's what Barry's doing. Teaching him to do like the, arm spinning mini tornado thing. And of course about the metabolism, like, you burn out, as a speedster, you burn so much calories that you have to refuel immediately. And of course, like, they eat tons of, like, burgers and whatnot. And of course, like, being a detective, it didn't take long for August to figure out that, Barry Allen is the Flash. So in the meantime, Wallace is, practicing, beating his own top speed in his junkyard, but he's hesitant on telling Iris because he's worried about like what she might think, because he has like an Uncle Daniel who is a speedster in his own right, but I think an evil speedster that I'm not familiar of. And then Iris is running an investigation herself into this break-in at Star Labs. A security officer giving her like some like on hush hush down low about like what was it mentioning like about some scientist that was fired and is one of them being this scientist called Dr. Carver. And obviously there's, these gotta be the guys who broke into Star Labs in the first place. uh, this leads into Barry and like August, who is having this discussion. August saying like, "Hey, with this powers, we can literally, do what we need to in order to get certain things done that, regular police officers, wouldn't be able to do. I can really get this, like, Billy Parks guy." But Barry's telling him like, "No, you cannot abuse your powers. We got things like warrants and evidence. We got to stack up in order to have against these guys when we bring them in, and we got to bring them in by the book." And of course, this causes a heated discussion because August is like, it's conflicting between justice and revenge, because he like really loved his brother, obviously, but before things escalate, Iris, gets kidnapped by some goons, the black hole goons, which causes like but of course Barry and August come in, save her, and take down these black hole guys. And of course, Barry nearly got killed because of this black hole gun that Carver invented. It's kind of he haven't, Barry mentions he hasn't felt this kind of power since his time fighting the Black Racer, who is another rogue of the Flash. It's kind of this black lightning kind of thing. But then this wild storm, it starts to like really, like, it's coming in over the city, and it's like it's it's more than just a storm. We later find out it's like scientifically manufactured by Dr. Carver, running tests because he got fired from illegally or at least not on off the books kind of experimentation on the Speed Force, that was dangerous and and illegal. So he's now like hidden somewhere running testing that is dangerous. And so this storm randomly starts to strike certain citizens in Central City and giving them super speed powers, just like August and Barry. So now, the last panel is like, you see like a bunch of, yellow streaks going up and down, highways. So, it's ironic, Barry's complaining about, being by himself, but now he's not by himself. He got too many speedsters. And of course, there's obviously opportunists. Now Barry and August is stopping like certain goons that were using their super speed powers to rob banks, but obviously they're worried that we might run into certain people who are not just using their powers for petty crimes or just staying home or whatever. They might do something like more creative with their powers. Now, of course, you get a little brief panel with the rogues in like a bar, and you have Captain Cold mention like, "I think it's time for us to leave Central City," because obviously it's enough for them to deal with maybe like one or two flashes, but now you got like at least a dozen people with super speed powers, and it's like, okay, we gotta step back a bit. So August and Barry takes some of these goons to Iron Heights, and it was brought to their attention by a guard that, hey, uh, uh, there's this facility, that's housing a lot of these people who came in looking for help with their powers, and and you're introduced to another new character, since Rebirth, because the Rebirth era, is like a kind of over, and went into some other kind of era of comics, but it really introduced like a handful of new characters left and right, like Dr. Mina Dewan, uh, who later turns into the Negative Flash. And you also get Avery Ho, who is also a Flash, who's a Chinese American. You probably would have seen her in the Flash CW series, but it didn't dawn on me until like I reread this that, oh, that's Avery Ho, but she never got like any super speed powers. But it's like, they got like a very distinct kind of like purple highlights in her hair just to make sure she's like different or whatever. So Barry meets with this doctor who's also a scientist and who has super speed powers herself, and she's dedicated herself to make sure to help these people who didn't ask for these kind of powers, at least trying to know how to handle it in the meantime until such time when they figure out how to get rid of these powers for them, because not everybody wants to be a superhero. Of course, like Barry and Mina's obviously flirting with each other, and this is like, he's clearly going to end up with like Iris, but it's like at this point in time they're not like together yet. Mina brings Barry to this young girl, Avery, who has trouble controlling her powers because she's like constantly vibrating and she doesn't know how to stop. Barry tells her to like, give her some tips in order to ground herself. And, is not too dissimilar to like how Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse movie. Spider-Man teaching Miles how to, unstick when he's like, when he's sticking to stuff and he doesn't know how to make it stop. He's like, you have to relax. What do you do to help you relax? And you get him humming a song in order to like, untense. So that's similar to what Barry has to do with Avery. And it's like, hold up your fist, and with each finger, tell me who and what do you love. It's like, I love my mom, I love my dad, and of course she's talking really, really fast. Like, I love my mom, I love my dad, I love my dog, my friends at school, and it's like, because Mina has to understand, from watching this, is like, it's not always scientific. Sometimes it's metaphysical or like psychological. Like sometimes, if you try to recall what you love, it makes it easier for you to focus your abilities. But then there's this like a incident in Iron Heights where Barry races in and he finds that the bank robbers that with the super speed that they brought in earlier all dead, while August is laying bloodied onto the ground, and he's telling Barry like they were attacked by this bad guy. He calls himself Godspeed, and I love this look. And I was so psyched for them to bring in Godspeed to the CW, but like I should have known they're gonna ruin it at some in some way. They give him like make him use his lightning as lightsabers, and it's like, my God, it's like, why? What? Why do this? It's not enough. They're speedsters. They already got lightning. Just run, like, just run, bitch. Just run. God. So now, right now, like powering my phone. It always happens when I'm going over a comic book review. So now, uh, uh, Barry and Mina is like, monitoring all these citizens who have been training in this facility, but now they gotta worry about this Godspeed guy on top of the black hole people. Uh, of course, August believes like the black hole guys has something to do with Billy Park, and uh, uh, then you get Iris who comes in with some information about Dr. Carver, and she thought like before she bring it to print, she'd bring it to Flash just out of courtesy, just to get these guys off the streets. Uh, yeah, they find out like he was fired for experimenting with Speed Force illegally, and Mina, who has like the added benefit of tracking, uh, kind of like a hound dog when it comes to like Speed Force signatures. So now that there's like a raw Speed Force being used, she's able to track it, which they do uh, to this warehouse or bunker, whatever, or kind of like a warehouse. And they bring in Avery and some rando kid along because August, he's still trying to heal up. With Super Speed Power, I mean, they'll heal up fast, but it takes them a minute. So Barry is telling like Avery and this other kid like, okay, try to get the civilians far away in the surrounding area, far away as possible while we deal with this. And as Barry has like Dr. Carver in his grasp, he activate this machine on his chest that pours like, because Speed Force is like supposed to like randomly, or at least kind of like the Green Lantern rings. It's like it's chosen people that like the Speed Force wills its power to, in a way, where it almost feels like an accident kind of situation. But Carver is like trying to force it, and it does not work. So now he's like pumped, too much with Speed Force energy, and he turns into this giant storm monster. And with August coming in as backup, these three decide to like utilize like speed around Carver and steal all the speed he absorbed. Just enough so they won't kill him like Godspeed did to the bank robbers, because he was trying to steal their speed, and then in the wake of that, he kills them. And now it's like, hey, everything seems hunky dory. You stop black holes, so the only thing left is Godspeed to deal with. But then like this is typical Barry Allen stuff. It's like you only just met this woman, and you're already revealing your secret identity because you feel like you can trust her because y'all have like a spark between you two, and it seems kind of fast because like yeah, you might be into each other, sure, but it's like I don't know. It's not like whatchamajig, the like you saving somebody's life, and it's like I forgot what the technical or medical term for it, but it's like the whole damsel in distress, not damsel in distress, but it's kind of like that adrenaline. It's like it's kind of thing. It's like you partners, and like of course you got a thing for science, and then you got both have super speed, and it's like you feeling each other, but it's like you jump the gun kind of quick, and it's of course it's typical in the CW Flash too, because he's Not everybody, but it was like he just taking off his mask like to almost anybody at the slightest whim he feel like he can trust them, or at least after maybe like a week or two. And it's like if I was a superhero, like sure, if I had like a significant other who's I've been around for like a significant amount of time, maybe yeah. But if met you, especially with another superhero, and we saved the day a couple of times, I'm not telling you, even if you were Batman, I'm not telling you who I really am until maybe like, I don't know, a year or two after we help each other save the day or whatever like that. Then maybe. But you just like, whoop, enough secrets. Boop. I was like, that kind of drove me freaking bonkers. It's like I never agreed to like a hero just doing that. Just like, just willy nilly. Next, we get like a little issue with Mina herself, where she's like, you know, you see like what's going on about her day when she's like helping training these uh, people, at least how to manage their powers. And hold on, let me charge my phone before it goes completely dead. Let's get some. Burning up. And my chair's falling. Pardon me. Sorry. But anyway, yeah. So of course, like Wallace, walking towards this facility running by which is run by Mina, thinking about, hey, maybe I need somebody to help me, with these powers, and I'm not comfortable telling anybody. But then he's like second guessing himself. Then of course Mina, it's like senses, an extra speed force power outside the building, so he runs out and bumps into Wally, and it's like, hey, if you need help, you can come right on in. It's a safe place. Of course, Wally's like, having second thoughts. He doesn't feel like he can trust anybody. And I'm like, I don't like Wallace in this. It's probably just in this particular arc. Well, I read more arcs after this when this came out, so like I vaguely remember, there's a significant period where like Wallace is kind of like a whiny kid, and of course he's supposed to be, I guess, but it's like it's got to be understandably whiny, not just whiny for the sake of being whiny because he's just happened to be a kid. I never been, with that. I never cared for that. And there's a moment in a few issues, down the line, where it's like really comes to the head, and it really made me like annoyed with Wally. It seems like a CW melodrama kind of snuck in this arc, but she decides like, okay, I will help you one-on-one. Why him in particular? Just because he's hesitant? I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of people who was hesitant. You didn't like give them any kind of one-on-one sessions, but she's training him by himself in this what's like a lot where all these abandoned cars and stuff like teaching him how to phase through stuff, and like kind control his speed and everything like that. She called herself like the fastest woman alive. And it's kind of wild to me that she later becomes like the negative Flash. Because I looked this up while I was like, after I reread this arc, and she's not either like, she appears to be like just a good person here, but later on, she just become like a neutral person. She's not like either good or bad, which is kind of funny. It's like, okay, she must have went through some stuff in other Flash stories to where she's like, probably done some bad stuff, but it's kind of like Catwoman for quite some time in the past, where she's not evil, but she does good things every once in a while, but she kind of does her own thing. So I guess it's on that kind of vein. So her and Wally help save some people, but then on the way back to the facility, she finds Godspeed there, stealing a few people's powers, and is about to steal Avery's and kill her, until like she intervenes. Avery runs, and I think Wally runs away as well, trying to find a Flash, because this is supposed to be his day off, and because her and Wally's doing their thing, and Wally's take care of some other stuff. Wally comes back and he sees like she's like only thing left is her clothes. It's not that too dissimilar to what happened to him during that first DC crisis back in the late 80s. And the only thing that's left was his clothes. So for all intents and purposes, he thinks she's dead, which you later, I'm not going to bury Lee here, but you later found out that she merged with the Speed Force. He came back, at least I believe she merged with the Speed Force in some capacity, but she came back. She got controlled by Gorilla Grodd to do certain things, but then she then got out of that and done her own thing. So she is like a mainstay in DC Comics right now. But now he's like, at this point, just broken. He's like, super depressed. And it's like, August brings this up in like issue 7 on a different circumstance, which we'll get to in a minute. But it's like the way Barry's behaving is kind of like I said, it seems like they kind of snuck in a few CW melodrama into this, because the way Barry acts, it's like, I get he's heartbroken. He was feeling this girl, and now somebody potentially killed her, and like, yeah, it's gonna be sad. I'm not saying he shouldn't be feeling some type of way, but the way he's acting is this like just super depression mode. It's like he's been married to Mina for like a decade or so, and then somebody killed her, and this is what you would expect from that kind of relationship. Not somebody you probably just started something with, not just like within like the past week and some change. That is like that seems like, okay, you went through some emotions kind of quickly. But that's the only thing he's focused on. It's like, trying to find this guy before he hurts anybody else. And he's not even focused on the other students anymore. But then he goes to, Iris, trying to figure out, okay, because they can't talk with the black hole guy. They assume that he has something to do with Godspeed, but he's kind of comatose at this point from his ordeal with like the absorbing so much of the Speed Force in himself. And so he went to Iris trying to see if she knows anything, and then he breaks it to her about like Mina, and of course Wally over here, and this is where you hear this old melodrama. It's like you're here trying to hit on my aunt instead of investigating, and it's like, shut the fuck up, you whiny little twerp, and it's like it's that kind of like bugged me, and it's probably I won't say the worst panel, but it's like that panel in particular kind of like irked me. It's like yeah, I would respect it more if you get that she's dead and then run out. But then like you add on the fact like you hit it on my aunt. It's like, shut the fuck up, kid. Why would anybody do that? At what point in Barry's history do you know him acting any way like that, using somebody's death to hit on somebody? And I know you're distressed, but this seems kind of, you went too far with it. But then going through Iris's notes about like Godspeed's targets, all of them has been like people who had the super speed, but except for one. There's one guy among the victims that wasn't known to had speed, and he was dragged, and according to like the police reports, it seemed like he was dragged to death at super speed. And this clicks in Barry's mind, and it's like, and he tracks down August, and he confronts him. You're the guy who's been doing this, haven't you? Why would you kill Bully Park? You don't know if he was guilty or not. And August's like, I knew it in my gut. He was a criminal, and I got him off the street. And it's like, and they get in this heated, argument, and it's come to fruition that August has been the one who's been causing all this death with these other speedsters. And Barry confronts him about like, did you kill Mina too? And August, and I hate to like, I agree to some level with August on this point. It's like, you barely even knew her, Wally, so don't try to turn her into one of your it's not like your mother, these like, one of your long list of tragedies, because you're not like some star-crossed lovers. You barely knew her. And it's like, I mean, of course, Barry slugged him after he compared to like, situation with like his mom. But it's hard. I hate to say it, but he's kind of right. I mean, it's like, you did barely know her, and you freaking out over a woman that, yeah, her death is a tragedy, and you should be, investigating and do all this stuff to make sure you find out who is the culprit. But you're going this depression mode, like y'all been married for a decade and then some change, and then this happened, and it's like, it's like, this seems like a over dramatic kind of reaction. So then August reveals himself to be Godspeed, and I'm digging the costume. It's probably, like I said, I like August's motivation. I love the character and the costume. And it's like, just like with, because like Gore the God Butcher, Godspeed, and like with somebody else, like a new, one of the new, it's like a third person. I'm blanking on it right now, but it's like, those are like, off the top of my head, perfect examples of great new villains introduced into like the comic book pages. And it's like, cool backstory, cool design, and such a lethal threat on top of all that. And it's like, Godspeed could be like not saying the next Reverse Flash, but it's like on that kind of tier list of threats to the Flash, to where it's like, can you imagine if there's like a reverse Godspeed or something? But it's like, Reverse Flash is just like a petty dick that goes out of his way to make sure Barry's life is miserable because he's just that much of a fucking fanboy. But Godspeed is like, still thinks of him and Barry as good friends, and he'll do anything for his friend. And it's like, kind of like taking friendship to a perverse way. And I liked that concept. And that's like a brilliant concept. I loved it. and the fact that he took what he learned from Barry and kind of practiced off screen and like absorbed the powers and just kept growing. Now he's reached to a point where he's even slightly better than Barry himself. So much so to the point where now it's like he can actually be, as he points out to Barry, it's like, I'm so fast, I'm able to achieve what you always wish you could, be in two places at once. So he created a speed clone or after image of himself. He's running so fast, he's making two versions of himself. We've seen a few times in like the Flash TV series, or even plenty of times in the comics. I think like Reverse Flash done it plenty of times. And one is holding him down while the other is just beating after a living mess out of Barry. And of course, this doesn't last long, because this is how you explain how Godspeed is here while August is in next to Barry. But August can't maintain that for too long, because it's like dividing up his powers is a strain on him. So while Barry making his escape by while August is distracted from the pain, he dips out, runs back to the facility and he collapses. He's pretty much like trying to heal up. In the meantime, Godspeed's running rampant on these black hole goons who's trying to hold people hostage trying to negotiate with cops to release their leader, Dr. Carver. Godspeed comes in, and this is where you get very it's like you slip into like The Boys or Invincible slightly here when it comes to especially when Godspeed or certain characters. So this is mostly with villains, but Godspeed and Reverse Flash, they do stuff that you probably more than likely seen from like The Boys or Invincible. Because Godspeed comes in, he takes two of the goons, fuses them into the walls, killing them instantly once they go solid. Then, running at top speed, he, punches a guy's head right off. You don't see it, but it's like it's off, blacked out, and a cop just mentions like one guy's missing a fucking head. And he takes the guy leading this, hostage situation, and takes him on top of a building, and just starts like using super speed and shakes his ass, and it's like only doing it lightly. But if I intensify just a little bit, I'll turn your insides to mush. So tell me what you know, because he wants to know if like his, like Billy Parsons associated with them at all. And the guy sound like, I don't know anything. I don't know who this guy is. I never ran to a guy like that. And of course, he kills that guy because he didn't tell him what he needed to know. So right now, he's just like off the rails at this point. Because he's so convinced, and he's trying to make sure he gets proof so he'll know, like, yeah, I killed this guy justifiably. But it wasn't justifiably. Then, like, after Flash goes talk with, Wally, who's, who has powers, who is, telling, like, Flash, like, hey, I don't need your permission to be a hero. And, like, it's my choice to utilize this power, but this gives Barry, like, like a confidence boost and also an idea on how to deal with like Godspeed. And of course, he's giving like an assurance to Wally, making sure like, hey, I'm with you, like, you don't have to do anything you don't want to, like, I'm on your side, like, but don't go after Godspeed, because Wally's so assured, like, I'm going after Godspeed, I'm going to take him down, knowing full well this punk is not gonna be. Maybe now Wally West, and currently now you can probably duke it out with Godspeed. But at this current time, you are lagging way too far behind in terms of training to be able to go toe to toe with this dude. At least not in like a fair fight. But he goes to the facility and tells the rest of the surviving speedsters, "Hey, I figured out how to way to get rid of these powers for you, and you don't have to die in the process. You have to willingly give your Speed Force powers to me in order to save you guys. So that way Godspeed has no reason to come after you." So they race, and only Avery and Wally is the only two left to decide, I want to keep these powers. Of course, because Avery, currently right now in the comics is a super speedster. And Godspeed burst in, and him and Barry starts going at it, and Godspeed's telling him, like, "Look, I know you hung up about this, no killing thing, but you know what? I hear you. You don't have to do anything. I'm going to do something for you because you're my best friend. I'm going to go into Iron Heights. I'm going to break into Reverse Flash's jail cell. And I'm going to kill that sucker." And he races off, and Barry's trying to go after him because, like, despite how he hates Reverse Flash, he refuses to, have any life taking, especially under his watch. So he chases after him in order to prevent another death on his watch. And of course, like, Barry is like reminiscing about like the good times he's having with August, and it's like how he wished he would have had a 20/20 vision of the telltale signs that something was going on with his friend. And but it's like you never know. It's like, for all he knew, it was just talk. It was just like him venting. So now he's got to save his arch enemy from a best friend. Hell of a twist, am I right? But then while Barry's getting overwhelmed by dealing with two Godspeeds, Wally comes in, brand spanking new Kid Flash costume, and help takes down Godspeed. And a few days later, August is in Iron Heights. Probably doesn't bode too well to him being a former police officer. His life's pretty much like turned upside down. Barry comes in and hands August some information. And of course, August assures Barry, is like, I still consider you a friend. I'm not going to tell anybody your secret, obviously. But Barry wasn't worried about that part. He wanted to present August some information that he finally had some downtime to get into the death of his brother. And with the evidence, he finds out that Billy Parks had an alibi, which I don't know why nobody figured that out a long time ago. But the evidence points to the fact that Billy had no responsibility was not responsible for the death of August's brother. Was stunned August, and Barry just points out, you killed an innocent man, at least innocent in this case. But but August is not too bothered by that because, like, well, he's still a criminal. I took him off the streets. But then he lays down some breadcrumbs to, it's very Hannibal Lecter-ish kind of situation. He lays down some breadcrumbs to Barry, saying that, Dr. Carver was just a general in the black hole. The leader is still out there. But I'm not going to tell you who it is. I'm going to leave that in my back pocket because eventually you'll need me. And I'm going to use that, that information to my benefit. And this leaves Barry very saddened, because the fact that like his best friend is like, isn't bothered with the fact that he took somebody's life. Of course, there was like another arc with Godspeed. It was like around the time of the Flash War, or slightly before the Flash War, a couple of years after this point, or at least either within a year or a year after this arc came about, where it's like he has some kind of I don't want to say come to Jesus moment, but it's like he, I don't know, it's like anti-hero. I'm not sure where he stands right now in current comics, but I don't know if he's like a full-fledged good guy, but at best at this point he should be like anti-hero. But now he's like, he got like a partner again, so he's training Wally West to how to use his like super speed, and then he gets like a whisper in his ear from obviously Mina, but then he turns around and nobody's there, and it's like oh, what could have happened, what's happening, that kind of thing. But not bearing the lead here, she shows up later as a negative Flash. But yeah, that is Joshua Williamson's Lightning Strikes Twice arc. And yeah, there was other arcs after this when something you did with the Rogues, but I wanted to focus on this particular arc because it's a nice little jump into the Flash, but also cool introduction to one of my favorite new comic book villains, and I'm really digging it. But despite the melodrama here and there, they're kind of like I wasn't feeling, or at least wish it could have been done a little bit better. I ultimately dig this arc. But yeah, DC Rebirth in general, I should say, if you have little kids that want to get into comics, or you want to read them with them, DC Rebirth, for example, it's hard to, because Marvel hasn't had like a Rebirth. I'm pretty sure they had Rebirth, they just didn't call it that. It's like Marvel One, or Marvel Now kind of situation. I think that is like their Rebirth kind of thing. But I think kudos to DC, they have a little bit more distinct ones to hone in on, so you'll know that you can actually put like a name to it. So yeah, DC Rebirth is a nice little jumping on point for people who wants to get into Flash, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, that kind of thing. And then every once in a while you can show them other stuff around Rebirth, prior to Rebirth and then after Rebirth. That way they can like really get some kind of footing. But yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think of the Flash Rebirth overall, but this particular arc, what you think of Godspeed as like a new villain. And yeah, I will see you guys, I don't know when the next, because I want to try to go off of the big two in terms of comic book material to review, because there's like some stuff like from IDW and Boom that I want to check out too. I want to leave it a little bit hush hush, trying to like keep it a surprise. But yeah, but because there's one in particular I really want to get into. Think it's no, not, it's not IDW. It's crap. What's that icon with the horse? Dark Horse. Duh. Something from Dark Horse I really want to obviously get into, and of course Image. But yeah, I think I should take at least a minor break from DC and Marvel for a minute. But yeah, stay tuned for new comic book reviews, and I will see you guys in a little bit when I have reviews for Star Wars Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker up and running.